Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. We're jumping right into the heart of a massive paradigm shift in international sports today. So, the 2026 FIFA World Cup? Yeah, it's definitely not just another iteration of the tournament you grew up watching. It's actually fundamentally transforming in a way that alters the very DNA of the competition. Think of it like taking a well-oiled, perfectly predictable machine and suddenly adding a turbocharger while simultaneously forcing it to carry a much heavier load. We're looking at a fascinating, unprecedented structural shift that balances a massive expansion in the tournament's overall scale with a strict, forceful acceleration of the actual speed of play on the pitch. It's this brilliant, high-stakes tension of scale versus speed, and it's absolutely going to change the beautiful game forever. 104 matches. Just let that sink in for a second. If you really want to understand the sheer, overwhelming scale of what's coming in 2026 across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, well, this is the single most important number to grasp. We're talking about a staggering volume of soccer here. To put that into perspective, entire domestic leagues barely play much more than this over a span of several months, and we are packing this entirely into a single summer window. It marks the very first time the tournament will ever breach the 100-match threshold, transforming what used to be a month-long sprint into this sprawling, continent-wide marathon of international football. Let's look at Section 1, the biggest tournament ever. Okay, let's dive into this. Historically, we've lived in this sleek, highly refined 32-team era. For decades, that meant exactly 64 matches neatly packaged into a highly predictable 32-day window. It was perfect symmetry, right? But our new, supersized reality is entirely different. We're jumping to a massive 40-18 mega tournament. Because of that expansion, the match count absolutely explodes, from 64 up to 104. That's a nearly 40% increase. And to physically accommodate all of this extra soccer without entirely breaking the athletes, the tournament's overall duration has been extended to 39 days. So this isn't just an extra week of soccer, it's a monumental logistical shift that demands new infrastructure, deeper squads, and honestly, a totally different mindset from both the organizers and the teams competing. Moving on to Section 2, navigating the group stage. So you might be wondering, how exactly do you fit 48 different national teams into a coherent competition without the entire structure collapsing under its own weight? Well, the initial building blocks actually remain remarkably familiar. We have 48 total teams divided into 12 distinct groups with 4 teams in each. Now, early on, FIFA heavily flirted with the idea of having 16 groups of 3, but they quickly scrapped that concept because it created a massive risk of collusion in the final matches, where 2 teams could easily engineer a mutually beneficial draw to eliminate the third team just watching from the hotel. By keeping groups of 4, everyone still plays exactly 3 group matches. This ensures the early days maintain that familiar, intense rhythm we love, while seamlessly folding in 16 new nations. And this brilliantly illustrates a subtle but absolutely massive strategic shift in how these groups are resolved if teams tie on points. Under the old rules, goal difference was king. You wanted to score as many goals as possible across all your group matches. Not anymore. Now, the ultimate first tiebreaker is the head-to-head result, the points earned specifically in the direct match played between the tied teams. This changes a manager's entire tactical approach. You can't just rely on beating up the weakest team in the group 5-0 to pad your stats. You have to actually show up and perform when facing your direct high-level rivals. It guarantees that the individual heavyweight matchups within the group are significantly more high stakes. Which brings us to Section 3, the extended knockout path. So what exactly happens to all those third-place teams? In the past, finishing third in your group usually meant packing your bags and booking a flight home. But the complex math of a 48-team tournament gives us an incredible lifeline. The top 2 teams from the 12 groups advance automatically, giving us 24 teams. But to make a symmetrical knockout stage work, we need exactly 32. Therefore, the 8 best third-place finishers across all groups are granted a ticket to advance. This is going to create absolute chaos on the final day of the group stage. We're going to see teams desperately scoreboard watching across different time zones, calculating complex point totals and disciplinary records to see if they've narrowly scraped through as one of the lucky 8. Let's move to and see how this builds an entirely new architecture for the knockout phase. We go from the group stage directly into an unprecedented round of 32. That's 16 immediate, high-stakes, single-elimination matches right out of the gate. It's an incredibly crowded field of survivors. From there, the remaining teams must trudge onward to the traditional round of 16, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and ultimately the final. The bracket is completely predetermined and fixed. There's no reseeding based on group performance. This means a team's exact finishing position in their group directly dictates their path through this brutal, massive six-stage labyrinth, leaving zero room for error. 8. That is the new magic number, and it represents the truly grueling human toll of this expanded format. To lift the Golden Trophy in 2026, a champion must survive a total of 8 matches instead of the traditional 7. Because every team still only plays 3 group matches, that extra physical burden falls entirely on the knockout stage. 4 intense, do-or-die elimination rounds stand between the round of 32 and the final. This dynamic is going to demand unprecedented squad depth. You literally cannot rely on just 11-star players anymore. Managers will be forced into deep tactical rotation, managing yellow card suspensions, muscle fatigue, and the sheer physical stamina required to survive a gauntlet that has never been successfully navigated in the history of the sport. And finally, Section 4, speeding up the game. To combat time wasting, entirely new rules are being fiercely enforced. The lawmakers of the game are systematically destroying the dark arts of football. Players being substituted now have a strict 10 seconds to get off the pitch. No more slowly clapping to all 4 corners of the stadium while jogging at a snail's pace. If they dawdle, their replacement waits a full minute to enter. Referees also have a visual 5-second countdown for throw-ins and goal kicks. Delay, and the ball goes to the opposition. And perhaps most importantly, if a player goes down needing medical attention on the field, they must wait on the sideline for 1 full minute before returning. Say goodbye to those miraculous recoveries from mysterious cramps in the 89th minute when a team is protecting a 1-goal lead. So the crucial point is, they are forcing the ball to stay in play. However, with all this aggressive pacing keeping the ball constantly in play, player welfare becomes a massive looming concern. To balance the frantic new speed of the game, FIFA has introduced mandatory 3-minute hydration breaks into every single half of every single match. Now, while this undeniably gives broadcasters a very convenient window to squeeze in a commercial for those of us watching at home, its real, fundamental purpose is survival. It gives these exhausted athletes a guaranteed, non-negotiable moment to physically recover, pull their tactical shape back together, and hydrate amid the notoriously blistering heat of a North American summer. And that leaves us with the ultimate, overarching question. We have a massively expanded 48-team field, an astonishing 104 total matches, an added round of 32, and a grueling 8-match gauntlet for anyone hoping to lift the trophy. Yet, simultaneously, the rules are forcefully keeping the ball in play faster than ever before and severely punishing anyone who tries to slow the game down for a breather. The scale is unprecedented and the speed is blistering. Will the sheer physical and logistical weight of the longest World Cup ever played absolutely break these teams, or will this aggressive new pacing create the most thrilling, action-packed tournament in the history of the sport? It's a fascinating experiment in sports architecture. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep an eye on how these new rules reshape the beautiful game.